Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving deep into a topic that can genuinely transform our lives. David stood on the cracked pavement outside the old apartment complex where he and Emily had lived together for 3 years, a place that once felt filled with dreams, but now felt like a cold reminder of broken promises, his hands trembling as he reached for her one last time, his voice shaking with desperation that came from the deepest part of his heart, the part that still believed in love, sacrifice, marriage, and loyalty. "Emily, please," he begged, his eyes glistening with tears that he tried but failed to hold back. "Don't leave me. I am working day and night. I know things are hard now, but they will get better. I promise you, I will make our life better. Just, please, don't walk away from everything we built together." His voice cracked on the last word, and it was as if something inside him broke too. But Emily, standing there in her stylish dress and expensive new shoes, no longer looked at him with the warmth she once had. Instead, her eyes were cold, sharp, almost contemptuous, as though she was looking at someone beneath her. "Why should I stay with you?" she asked, her tone filled with sarcasm and bitterness. "Tell me, David, why should I waste my life being poor with you forever? Don't you understand? I want comfort. I want luxury. I want a life where I don't have to worry every day about bills and rent and living paycheck to paycheck. You can't give me that. And I'm done pretending that I can be happy living like this." Before David could respond, the deep rumble of a high-end engine filled the street, and a sleek black luxury car rolled up slowly, shining like polished onyx in the afternoon sun. The door opened, and Mark stepped out, tall, confident, wearing an expensive suit that fit him perfectly, dark sunglasses hiding his eyes but not the smug expression on his face. Emily's face lit up the moment she saw him, her eyes sparkling with admiration, as though she had been waiting for him to sweep her away to a better world. She walked toward him with confidence, her heels clicking on the ground, every step seeming to stab David's heart deeper. But before she got into the car, she turned back one final time, reached into her purse, and pulled out a handful of neatly folded bills, tossing them onto the ground at David's feet. The bills scattered in the wind, fluttering around like broken pieces of dignity. "Here," she said, her lips curling into a cruel smirk. "Take this and don't ever bother me again. Consider it payment for the time I wasted with you." David stood there frozen, rooted to the spot, his mind refusing to accept what his eyes were seeing. His heart didn't just break, it shattered, fragmented into pieces that felt impossible to gather back. The woman he had loved, protected, supported, and sacrificed for, walked away without looking back. At that moment, the world felt unbearably heavy, the sky dull, the air suffocating. He slowly knelt to pick up the bills, his hands trembling not because of the money, but because of what it symbolized: rejection, humiliation, abandonment. As he was gathering the scattered money, he became aware of someone quietly standing near him. A homeless man with worn-out clothing and tired eyes watched him with a gentle expression. The man kneeling beside David helped him pick up the crumpled bills, not saying anything at first, just helping silently, respectfully. David, already feeling exposed and humiliated, whispered, "Thank you," his voice barely audible, his face lowered in shame. The homeless man placed a comforting hand on his shoulder and asked softly, "Why did she leave you?" David swallowed hard, trying to steady his breathing. "Because I am poor," he answered, every word heavy and painful. "She found someone richer than me." The homeless man let out a long, slow sigh, his eyes filled with both sorrow and wisdom. "Don't be sad, friend," he said gently. "A woman like that does not deserve your heart. One day life will change for you, and when it does, remember this moment, not to be bitter, but to remain kind." The homeless man slowly walked away, but as he disappeared into the moving crowd, he dropped his old, worn-out backpack without realizing it. David stood up and noticed it on the ground. Without thinking twice, he placed the money Emily had thrown, the very symbol of her betrayal, into the bag. Then he rushed to catch up to the homeless man and called out, "Sir, your bag!" The man turned around, startled, and when David handed it back, his eyes widened with gratitude, not just for the returned bag, but for the unexpected kindness from someone who had just been deeply hurt. The man nodded several times in appreciation before fading back into the sea of people on the street, leaving David standing alone with a broken heart, but an act of goodness that kept his humanity intact. Years passed slowly, each day filled with struggle, but also quiet determination, as David continued to work any job he could find. Construction sites, delivery work, fixing old machines, late-night shifts, long hours that left his bones aching and his body exhausted. But he never allowed bitterness to take root in his heart, even when loneliness weighed on him like a heavy winter coat he could not remove. He lived simply, eating little, saving every dollar he could, always believing that one day life would shift, even if he did not know when. He did not forget Emily, but the pain softened into a memory he carried like a scar, something that once tore him open but had now healed over time. Yet, he had not lost his compassion, and he never regretted the kindness he had shown that day to the homeless man. He believed deep inside that kindness never disappears. It travels, it grows, and it finds its way back. One afternoon, years later, as sunlight filtered weakly through the tall buildings of the busy city, David was walking home from work in his worn-out work clothes, his hands rough, his hair now faintly touched with early strands of gray. He had aged, but there was a quiet strength in his eyes, a resilience that could only come from hardship survived. As he crossed a crowded shopping street, he heard a familiar laugh, a high, sharp laugh that instantly froze him in place. Turning his head, his breath caught in his throat. There she was, Emily. She looked radiant, glamorous, her clothes stylish and clearly expensive, her hair perfectly styled, her fingers glittering with rings that sparkled under the sunlight. She was leaning against a shiny luxury car, laughing loudly as though she were the happiest person in the world, surrounded by friends who admired her. When her eyes finally met David's, there was no shock, no hesitation, only a smirk that twisted at her lips as though seeing him brought her amusement. "Well, well," she said loudly, walking toward him with an exaggerated sway in her step. "If it isn't David, my ex-husband." Her voice carried mockery in every syllable. "Look at you, still the same, still useless, still living like a nobody." Her friends stifled laughter behind their hands, their eyes cold and judgmental. David said nothing. He simply stood calmly, his gaze steady, because he no longer owed her any explanation, nor did her words have the power to crush him anymore. But Emily, fueled by arrogance and the attention of those around her, continued. "Look at me now," she said proudly, lifting her chin. "My husband is a respected manager. We live in a large house, we travel, we dine at the best restaurants. I made the right choice. I chose the better life." She tossed her hair back, satisfied with herself. The crowd around them had begun to notice, whispers spreading as people recognized Emily, some looking sympathetic toward David, others simply nosy. But then, a voice cut through the noise, a calm, commanding voice that instantly drew silence. "Stop insulting him. You have no right to speak to him that way." The crowd shifted, parting almost naturally, as a well-dressed man in his early 50s stepped forward. He was tall, confident, elegant in a tailored suit that spoke of high status, his expression serious but compassionate as his eyes fixed on David. Emily blinked in confusion, instantly annoyed at the interruption. "And who are you to interfere?" she snapped, rolling her eyes. The man ignored her completely and instead turned to David with a warm, genuine smile, the kind of smile that holds familiarity and gratitude. "Do you remember me?" he asked. David stared at him carefully, feeling a faint memory stir but unsure. The man continued, his voice steady and full of meaning. Years ago, you picked up the money your wife threw at you. A homeless man helped you collect it. When he dropped his bag, you ran after him and returned it to him, along with the money. That homeless man was me." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Emily's confident smirk faltered, confusion flickering across her face as she looked at the man again. Really looked at him. His clothes, his posture, his presence, all spoke of wealth and power, nothing like the ragged figure from years ago. "After that day," the man continued, his voice carrying emotion now, "I took the money you placed in the backpack, not because of its amount, but because of the kindness behind it. That kindness woke something in me, reminded me that I was still a man capable of rebuilding my life. I worked hard, step by step, and with time, patience, and faith, I rose again. And today, I am who I am, because of you." Just then, Emily's husband, a nervous, pale-faced man in a suit, came rushing forward, his voice trembling with respect. "Chairman Johnson, sir, you're here." The crowd gasped again. Emily froze completely, her face draining of color, as realization struck with brutal clarity. The homeless man David had helped years ago was now the powerful chairman of a major company, her husband's boss. "Wait, Chairman Johnson," she stammered, her voice shaking. You're the chairman? I didn't know." But Chairman Johnson cut her off sharply, his expression hardening. "You judged him because he had nothing, and now you stand here bragging, unaware of the truth." He turned to her husband, who looked sick with fear. "Notify HR immediately. Manager Smith is fired." Emily let out a strangled sound, her hand flying to her mouth in shock. Her husband collapsed emotionally, his shoulders sinking as he lowered his head, humiliated in front of everyone. Emily tried to speak, to protest, but no words came out. Her pride shattered, just as David's had been shattered years ago. And then Chairman Johnson placed a steady, respectful hand on David's shoulder and said loud enough for all to hear, "From today forward, you are the new manager of my company. A man with a heart like yours deserves this position." David stood there in stunned silence as the world around him seemed to slow, the weight of the moment pressing into his chest, not painfully, but powerfully, like a realization he had been waiting years to feel. The crowd that had gathered now looked at him with new eyes. Where once they might have seen just another tired, struggling man in worn clothes, they now saw dignity, patience, integrity, and a quiet strength that no humiliation could destroy. Emily stared at him too, but her gaze was empty of pride now. Instead, it held shock, regret, and something else: fear. The life she had chosen, built on shallow glitter and temporary luxury, was crumbling right before her eyes, exposed for its hollowness. Her husband, now fired, stood small beside her, his confidence shattered, while she clung to his arm in desperation, as though refusing to believe what was happening. But David did not gloat, did not mock, did not throw back the same cruelty that once had been thrown at him. His heart had been broken once, yes, but it had healed in a stronger shape, one built from perseverance and quiet grace. Chairman Johnson's hand remained steady on David's shoulder, his eyes filled with something few people in life ever get to see directed at them: genuine respect. "This world rewards many things," the chairman said softly but firmly, addressing both David and the crowd. "Wealth comes and goes, beauty fades, youth does not stay, but a pure heart, one that is kind even in suffering, will always rise again." Emily trembled, whispering a weak, "David, I didn't know." But David simply gave a small, calm smile, one that held no hatred. "Life has taught me," he said quietly, "that we don't lose people who truly love us. We only lose those who never deserved our hearts in the first place." Emily's eyes filled with tears, not of love, but of regret. Regret for what she had thrown away so carelessly, regret for the wealth she had measured in money instead of character. But it was too late, because some doors, once closed, are never meant to be opened again. Chairman Johnson guided David across the street and into the awaiting company car. Not the sleek and intimidating luxury of the past, but a respectful, dignified ride, one that symbolized a new chapter rather than a trophy of wealth. As they drove through the city, David looked out at the world that had once seemed so cruel and cold, but now felt open with possibility, the horizon no longer heavy but wide and bright. He thought of the days when he had worked until his hands blistered, of the nights when he sat alone wondering if his life held meaning, of the moment he had placed money into a homeless man, sold backpack because it was the right thing to do even when he had almost nothing himself. And now he understood. Kindness is never wasted. It always returns in its own time, in its own way, sometimes quietly, sometimes grandly, but always faithfully. And as the car carried him toward a new future, steady and strong, David's eyes filled with tears, not of sorrow, but of gratitude. For the first time in a long time, he felt the warm, full sense of life coming full circle. The sun shined a little brighter on the world ahead, and David, heart intact, dignity restored, was finally ready to walk forward. If you enjoyed this story, make sure you subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and share with your friends and family so you don't miss the next powerful story coming your way. Drop a heart in comment, like and subscribe my channel, and visit my channel for more interesting stories videos.